Let us begin.
Good morning. Our opening words are from the Reverend Christian Schmidt. No matter who or what you are welcome here. Now let's be clear. Here we welcome goblins and ghouls, saints and sinners, angels and devils, zombies and werewolves, vampires and witches. We welcome princesses and princes, paupers and farmhands, aliens and astronauts, robots and cyborgs, firefighters and police officers, nurses and doctors, cowboys, cowgirls, cowfolk of all varieties. We welcome Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Batman, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Thor. Indeed, we welcome both superheroes and superstars. In short, we welcome people, monsters, and all manner of creatures. Here, we welcome you and all of who and what you are. Welcome, let us begin by singing an opening hymn together, as ghoulishly and witchily as you desire, for all the saints, which is number 103 in your lovely tapestried hymnal.
As we will join in our unison affirmation printed in your order of worship this morning. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia, y el servicio es su ley. Este es nuestro gran pacto, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad en el amor, y ayudarnos los unos a los otros. Good morning, everyone. I am not the Reverend Megan Lines, as you may know, but I am Reverend Annie Gonzalez, your acting senior minister. And I'm so delighted to welcome all those categories listed in our delightful reading this morning here to First Parish in Bedford. Whether you're gathered on Zoom joining us or whether you're here in the sanctuary, we're so glad you're with us for this spooky, scary, Halloween-themed service. The hymn we sang this morning, For All the Saints, is a nod toward All Saints' Day that is celebrated in a variety of Christian traditions. And we have our own tradition here at First Parish, borrowed from our Transylvanian friends via the Partner Church Committee, who has a relationship with a Unitarian church in Abishvalva, Transylvania. And we will be gathering on Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. in the Memorial Garden outside to have a halataknapya honoring of the dead. And if there is anyone you've lost in this past year who you would like to honor, you are warmly invited to join us. Or even if not this particular year, but you want to come and honor someone who has passed, who you still hold in your heart. It will be a very simple service of honoring the people we carry in our hearts who are not with us any longer. Some other upcoming events to just be aware of. One is that right after the service, we're going to have a climate corner. This is a new event brought to us by our Environmental Justice Committee. We'll be meeting up in the Bacon Room, and the topic is the bike path extension that I understand to be rather contentious. So just to say, we're going to be sharing information and sharing our opinions with love and kindness and respect, and we're looking forward to discussing the environmental impacts of the way we transport ourselves. And lastly, I just want to give a nod and a shout out to all the awesome costumes we saw this morning. We are seeing. I'm loving it. I loved all the dancers, the choir. You are doing an incredible job, so thank you for showing up with the Halloween spirit. And with that, we'll move into the rest of our worship.
I have a scary story, a very scary story. And I'm going to go to the, I'm going to do sound effects. It was a sound effect. I know, I'm doing sound effects. Because my scary story needs sound effects. I want my sound effects. Sound effects. There we go. So I have this scary story. And this scary story is about two little boys. And they're brothers. One is named Victor and one is named Gino. And they've been told that if they go into the area of the basement where their mother sews, that they might step on a needle. Step on a needle. And that if the needle goes into their foot, this is the scary part, that it will get into their blood system and it will go to their heart and it's scary, right? Like that's really scary. So Victor and Gino, they're like, oh, well, we better not go over there. Well, we're not going to go over there. So they never went into their mother's sewing area, ever. Because they knew that if they did, needle would go into their foot, and it would travel all the way through their bloodstream, go up to their heart. They were so scared of this. They were so scared of this that when they grew up and they became parents, they told their children of this story. And their children, Maria and Christina, said, yeah, that doesn't sound right. And Victor and no, it's true. It is terrifying. You don't know. You could step on that. Maria and Christina said, no, that's not how bodies work. Like, did you not ask about this? Victor and Gina were like, oh, did you ask? Like, I don't know, did you ask? Like, they all of a sudden, they're like, it was scary. It was scary, but we forgot to ask. And Maria and Christina said, yeah, that's where you messed up. Should have asked some questions when you were afraid. Because I'm pretty sure everybody here agrees. A needle is not going to go from the floor to your foot to your heart. We all agree that that's true, correct? Yeah, but in 1952, Victor and Gino thought that it could happen. So, the moral of this story is that if you are afraid, maybe ask a question. Maybe ask, could that really happen? Maybe ask, what do I know that might help me understand this so that I'm not afraid? Because Well, my grandmother was successful in keeping my dad and my uncle out of her sewing area. They did not have an accurate understanding of human anatomy. So while some things might be scary, especially if you're a kid, and if a grown-up says something that seems really scary, the first thing that I want you all to remember is to ask a question, because asking questions can help you control what's scary. And the more you understand, the more you can keep scary things from being ridiculous. This was a true story. I mean it. Thank you all for listening. I would like to invite our pre-K through 7th graders to go and have a super fun Halloween time with our senior youth group. Yay!
This is a prayer by Max Ehrman. Let me do my work each day, as if the darkened hours of despair, and if the darkened hours of despair overcome me, may I not forget the strength that comforted me in the desolation of other times. May I still remember the bright hours that found me walking over the silent hills of my childhood, or dreaming on the margin of a quiet river, when a light glowed within me, and I promised my early God to have courage amid the tempests of the changing years. Spare me from bitterness and from the sharp passions of unguarded moments. May I not forget that poverty and riches are of the Spirit. Though the world knows me not, may my thoughts and actions be such as shall keep me friendly with myself. Lift up my eyes from the earth, and let me not forget the uses of the stars. Forbid that I should judge others, lest I condemn myself. Let me not follow the clamor of the world, but walk calmly in my path. Give me a few good friends who will love me for what I am, and keep ever burning before my vagrant steps the kindly light of hope. And if age and infirmity ever overtake me, and I come not within sight of the castle of my dreams, teach me to be thankful for life and for time's olden memories that are good and sweet. And may the evening's twilight find me gentle still.
I'm introducing the offertory. Stacy. But I appreciate that you were going to get up so fast. It means you weren't going to waste time. I'm not going to waste your time either. So, in this service, in life, we spend an awful lot of time thinking about the dark. When there is a row of candles in front of you and one of them is out for whatever reason, we always tend to focus on the candle that's out, not the ones that remain lit. In every tradition, faith tradition, and every type of story of gods or legends, there's always a period of darkness before it comes to the other side. And we find out that we survive it. I mean, even in Christian lingo, I bet you if I start this, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, thy rod and thy staff. And what it is, it's to say that we all have those moments of darkness, just like Halloween stories. And no, they're not fairy tales. We don't necessarily all live happily ever after, but we do get through it. And so we here at First Parish, we're in a time of transition, right? We all know that? Yet, I'm saying that this valley of darkness, that if we stick together as a community, as each other's rod and staff, that in fact, we'll get through that. The anthem that the choir is going to sing this morning is called Come to the Music. So it's not about the darkness, it's about the other side, the light. And as the offering is taken this morning, remember, focus on the light and give generously. Choir, now you can come up.
Celebrate, come to the music. Celebrate, come to the dance. Celebrate, sing hallelujah. Celebrate, clap your hands. Celebrate, hallelujah. Celebrate, clap your hands. Hallelujah, sing Hosanna, come hear the jubilant song of creation, come hear the music which brings us a hope to the nation. Celebrate, sing. Clap your hands.
Music is the sound of creation, crashing seed and forming ground.
Music is the voice of worship. Music lifts our hearts above. Music is the common language. Music is the song of God. Celebrate, celebrate. Clap your hands. Gloria, Gloria, sing hallelujah. Gloria, Gloria, sing to the Lord. Gloria, Gloria, sing hallelujah. Gloria, Gloria,
22 of. That sounded amazing, and I was behind you all. Was it good from it in front as well? Love it. Mimi Adler used to get calls in church. Hello, I'm in church. She always answered. We begin with a poem by Karen Herring. It's called Where the Map Ends. When we come to the edge of our knowing, and the journey is not yet over, and the road we've been on disappears, remember, it is only the map and not the world that has ended. Frontier, wilderness, terra incognita, these too stop short of where we are going. The truncated vocabulary of cartography and conquest, remnants of flat world thinking. You don't need to believe in dragons to fear fire-mouthed beasts dwelling at the edge of the mapped world we have known. Perhaps it's not maps we need now, but relationship. Old memory once carried in story, now ghosted in bone and song. Yes, here at the end, at the edge of our knowing, let us set down our maps. Call in the poets. Call up the poet within us all to pick up the endings, remake them, rearrange them in bold new pairings and unexpected line breaks. Now we recall, though the road we are on has ended, this round world and the gravity that draws us to it know no bounds. Trusting this, we begin again, setting our pens to the open page, encountering unknown ground, befriending the dragons that call it home. Last night I was talking to my colleague and friend Aaliyah Kemmler, who's the minister in Groton. She had just finished reading How to Lead When You Don't Know Where You Are Going by Susan Beaumont, who's a smart as the whip consultant for congregations. It was not a light read, she said, but a perfect one for congregations going through a time of transition, an in-between time of sorts when there has been some kind of an ending, but the way forward isn't yet clear. The new beginning hasn't yet started. Susan Beaumont calls this liminal time. And Aaliyah commented that poor Susan Beaumont had no idea the whole world would be stuck in liminal time, but that it was a great time to read the book. Beaumont talks about how when we are in liminal season, whether it is within a congregation, our own lives, or within a time of global pandemic, it just isn't helpful to pretend we know what needs to happen next, or to just forge ahead as if we know where we are going. Instead, she talks about going slow enough to pay attention. It's a courageous act to practice presence because it isn't the easiest way forward. Presence means a certain kind of showing up to the moment, being honest about the uncertainty and the not knowing, and also being somehow open, being willing to turn away from certainty and will, from force and action, and instead turning toward wonder and curiosity and trust. There is a word in Hebrew, hineni, which means, here I am. It's a powerful word used sparingly throughout the Hebrew Bible, mostly when God calls upon someone to do some seemingly impossible thing. When God asks Moses to free the Israelites from slavery in Egypt, at first Moses refuses and hides from God, but finally he answers, hineni, here I am. It is the same when God calls out to Abraham in one of the most painful stories of the Hebrew Bible, asking if Abraham is willing to sacrifice his beloved son Isaac. Abraham answers, "Here I am." The Hineni is also the name of a prayer sung at the Jewish New Year in which the cantor sings before the congregation. "Here I am, not ready and already falling short, full of fear and failings, but here I am. I pray on behalf of this gathered people." Hineni carries with it a sense of presence, of commitment even in the midst of fear or grief. I have shown up even though I highly doubt I have the skills required for the challenge. I am open. I am willing. I will not run away from what this moment asks of me, even if I am afraid. Hineni, here I am. In the Hebrew scripture, it is usually God who is searching, God who is the one asking, "Where are you?" But we can ask that of ourselves, and we can ask that of each other. Where are you? Are you lost? Are you in hiding? And if you are, can you come out and get found? In thinking about this sermon today with Aaliyah, I invited all of you to send me your own stories about fear and courage. What has fear taught you? I asked over Anno and on Facebook. And so many of you sent me the most startling to read, poignant and beautiful and raw and real stories. And I want to thank you for everyone who thought about it and sent something in to share, whether with your name or anonymously with all of us. And for those of you who didn't yet even hear the request, are hearing now, or didn't have a chance to think about the question yet, perhaps a story will surface for you this morning. I don't know that courage is always the desired outcome of fear. But I do know that fear can be a very good teacher. Can fear be healthy? My answer is yes, though certainly it is not always healthy. But there must be a reason why year after year we dress up in bizarre and scary ways at Halloween. Borrowing or stealing rituals from many cultures, we play a game with fear, sidling up to it, but then triumphing over it, at times mocking it or celebrating it. The more we are present to what we are afraid of, the more we accept that fear is simply one of the feelings in the landscape of being a human. We might ask of fear, what more is there to learn here? Midweek, after receiving the shortest story of them all, which I will share with you later, I had a dream. I was really asleep. It wasn't imagining. It was a sleeping dream. I was here among all of you, and you were masked, but hardly an eyeball was able to be seen. You wore thick, puffy coats and odd hats, and the windows were all steamed up. All was cloudy amongst us, and yet here we were. There was a mystery and a confusion amongst us, and yet there was also this feeling of glee. I suppose it was a perfect Halloween dream, and I'm glad that I had that with all of you, I guess. You're in my dream world, that's nice. But what happened next was that we turned to greet our neighbors. And slowly, instead of shaking hands, you would turn in your pews and you'd unmask your friends, which we don't do, but in my dream. And you'd do this with your friends and your new acquaintances and your unknown neighbors with this quizzical expression, like, "Who are you under there?" In my dream, you didn't hold back any curiosity about one another. You wanted to know everything. "Tell me what brings you courage," you'd say. "Speak to me of your grandmother, your son, your boss. Show me what you face each morning when you rise. Share with me how you learned to trust again. Teach me what the fear you hold tells you about your truth." Introduce me to the ones who lived because you spoke up. Tell me your convictions and tell me why you do not sway. Show me how to sacrifice and help me to let go. Help me to try on courage in your size shoes. So I am about to read to you some of the stories that came to me. I wish I could read all of them, but since I can't, I will play trick or treat. A little bit. My son Jesse added to it, so I might draw a present from him. This is the first one. He made it. He says, shake it up, you get a mix. Not near the Steinway. Well, thanks, Jesse. I think that's it. There's not too much a mystery. Oil, water, and glitter. I'm about to pull some stories, and I want to tell you that when I share somebody's name, it's with permission. This story is from someone who went to college in Amherst, Mass. They write, I loved to go jogging. We had a great paved bike path that went into Northampton. I biked it and jogged it often. I also liked to go on the off-beaten track paths and to take kind of winding new ones without knowing where exactly I was going. One particular fall day, I came across the train tracks, and I don't really remember seeing train tracks too often, and I thought I would jog along the tracks for a bit. It was pretty flat and beautiful. I got to a point where the train tracks crossed over the Connecticut River, and I really wanted to get to the other side and keep jogging. It didn't really look that far across, and I thought I could go pretty quick. So I stepped into the middle of the tracks and started crossing the narrow train tracks to the other side. I could look between the wooden rails to the water below, so I was walking at this point instead of jogging. I was about halfway across when I realized that there wasn't really a side for me anymore, just the tracks. And the bridge was way longer than it seemed. And then I stood still and a feeling overcame me, the obvious. How fast would it be coming? Would I have time to make it to the other side? What if there was no place to jump off to the side? Could I jump into the river far below? How deep was it there? Would it be better to turn around now and go back? I was paralyzed with fear and waiting for the low rumble to be felt in my feet. I actually don't remember getting back to the other side or walking home. I remember seeing the other side and wanting to get across and the water between the tracks below me, and I remember the fear in my soul that a train would be coming when I was standing alone in the middle of the bridge. I don't know what I was thinking to make the really stupid decision to walk across the track right over a river. Dumb, so dumb. But I think about this all the time, some 30 years later. When I am making a choice, am I thinking of all the different possibilities? Am I blinded by what I am trying to achieve so much that I am not thinking of what might happen on the way to getting there? Can I make a fast enough decision with other options to change course if I need to? That stupid moment has kind of guided me to think about what I do now that I'm an adult. It was almost like that was the moment I turned into an adult. It was just so stupid. I can't believe I did that. But the fear I felt in the middle of that bridge is now my metaphor for my life in many ways. I enjoy the trail. I go out of my way to seek out new experiences, but I am prudent in how I get there. Tomato Mama. These are Jesse's treats, so. Now you know what he thinks of me. Amy Signorello writes, fear played a really big role in my life, for the positive, I would say. My little brother Kenny was a drug addict most of his life. I came from a home where we struggled as kids of divorcing parents. Left alone a lot while my mom had to work to pay the bills, Kenny and I, so close in age, were left to figure things out for ourselves, starting when I was in 6th grade. That brought us so very close together. We learned to cook and clean and to get to our various sports practices all over town. We were whole as one until we weren't. Kenny lived on the very edge of his drug use, coming close to death many times. I picked him up from the darkest of dark places several times and sometimes wasn't sure if I was safe myself just finding him. The drugs, the drug addicts, the filth, and everything that came along with his addiction put a fear bigger than life into me. The way I raised my own kids, always being truthful about drugs, but I'm sure I put the fear into them as well. But Kenny and his lifestyle also helped me a lot. I see people differently now. I feel deeply for people struggling with addiction. I don't ever dismiss them with, it's their choice, as I hear so many other people do, because I know it is not their choice. It's helped teach me empathy and tolerance, and for those lessons, I am forever grateful. A lion ring. For bravery, I guess. This is a story from Christine Dudley Marling. One Friday night, when my son was 11 years old, we ended up at the emergency department for an MRI at Children's Hospital. We had gone there straight from Emerson, where he had a CT scan, and we carried those scans with us. He'd been having headaches for 3 years, migraines, we were told. Whisked upstairs to the MRI, the resident radiologist took us into an imaging room while Ian was prepared for the MRI. He told us that our son had a very large medulloblastoma, a fast-growing, aggressive, and invasive brain tumor. I fell to the floor, my heart racing with panic and dread as my husband asked, "Is my son going to die?" I knew the answer to his question, having worked in a pediatric rehab hospital where we had many children with brain tumors. In one instant, the bottom dropped out of my world and I faced an abyss. Just then, the nurse came in and said, "Get up, your son is asking for you." As I rose, I was aware of two things. I knew what the next few months would be like and how they would likely end, and somewhere deep inside me, I drew up a fighting determination to make sure those months were filled with laughter. I also knew I needed to be calm and composed as I went to my son. "What did the CT scan show?" he asked while lying on the MRI tube. As matter-of-factly as I could, I told him, "They found a little lump, and they're going to take it out." To speak in a calm, reassuring voice took all the courage I could muster. As I sat next to him while he entered the chamber, a single tear rolled down his face. I don't know where my courage came from during that time. I know the saying, "scared the out of me," is actually true. Courage came partly from a mother's instinct and the deep bond of love between us. And when I was helpless and could do nothing, just being together with him stilled my fear and gave me strength. 2 days later, after a 10-hour surgery, we were given the news that, in fact, it was likely a pilocystic astrocytoma and not a medulloblastoma. A pilocystic astrocytoma is a non-invasive tumor, grade 1, and while there were complications, he would probably go on to lead a healthy, normal life. This month, at age 35, he just ran a personal best in a marathon where he was cheered on by a young patient champion, also a survivor of pilocystic astrocytoma. And she sent a wonderful photo of her son running and going like this, and a little 5-year-old maybe going, cheering him on. We're not done yet. Yeah, Jesse. Yeah, he wanted to play. Brad Connor says he knows you'll know that this is from him, so it would be hard to have it stay anonymous. But hey, we can try. As I was growing up in West Virginia, I knew from a very young age that I didn't fit in for many reasons. As a boy, it was a real problem that I wasn't good at sports. Like my mom, I was good at drawing and painting and crafts, not things a boy should be doing. I loved reading. The problem was those things were feminine. To make it worse, along came music. As a teenager, it entered my life like a hurricane. It was shocking to my non-musical family, but my parents found a way to be supportive, while my siblings didn't understand, especially because they didn't seem to have any musical abilities. Oh, in all of that, I realized I was gay. How could I survive? I moved away, but while I moved to the accepting city and state of Boston, Massachusetts, I still had to figure out how to survive. When I was lonely or alone, when I was scared, when I was mocked and beaten, those creative abilities were there to comfort me. I learned to look inside myself to find answers that I couldn't find anyplace else. Humans might not understand me or who I was, but music and creativity did. It still works that way. Music is always there to comfort me whenever I feel scared or feel that the world doesn't understand. Play-Doh. We can do that later. This one is an interjection because I read it from a colleague of mine online. She doesn't attend here, she's another minister. And it stood out to me as a very different from the normal story, in the sense that we are often told this story that it works a lot of the time, but not always, that we are meant to head toward our fear, work to overcome it, find our courage, and strive amid adversity. And she has a counterpoint message that teaches us that when we pay very close attention, sometimes the answer is actually a giant no rather than a giant yes. She writes that, her post had a picture of a huge ropes course, and it was a post that was reappearing 8 years after the original. The original said, "Heading up." So this was 8 years later. "Let me tell you what happened on this day 8 years ago," she said. "I had just had my wisdom teeth removed the day prior to attempting the ropes course in the picture. I had an infection and a fever. I only made it halfway up before getting so dizzy that I couldn't move. My blood pressure spiked, the stitches in my mouth burst, and my mouth started to bleed a lot. I didn't know I was pregnant. I did not keep climbing. I felt so embarrassed, and I blamed my failure on being too fat." She goes on to explain, "Some of you may remember that I had a similar experience of self-blame or fat shaming while running the Quarry Crusher in early 2020, while stopping to throw up every few minutes along the way. I didn't quit that time, though. I finished that run climb with an undiagnosed intussusception, which is a intestinal rupture, and a gut full of tumors, because I thought I was just fat, not really sick." And then she writes in caps, "Someone today needs to pay attention to your body and flat refuse to push through the pain. Today, do not let shame kill you, because it will if you let it. Do not be a bully to your body. Go lie down and treat your body like the precious gift it is. I love you." And I know her now to have taken care of so many health issues and be very, very healthy, and a big advocate for not shaming people because of what's going on with their body, including perhaps being fat, which is a perfectly fine way to be for a lot of the time. All right. One among us wrote this, and I have shortened it just slightly. "One story that has been a thread through 95% of my entire life is the first feelings and associated realizations of death after birth. I was lucky as a child, as my parents loved me and kept me safe. But even a warm home and physical security does not prevent the realization of what dying may represent to the psyche and to the self. I would say, though, that I was perhaps courageous at times, and if I was, it was grace and the wisdom and love of others that in the end helped me to find the courage to unmerge with my self-generated fear. And to have the self-compassion to offer love to myself then and now, to reparent the fear and to heal it and to let it finally flow lovingly free. I think that wherever the fear, no matter how old or deep, whether it is pre-verbal or not, formed from within by oneself or from others, that boundless love can and will hold the fear and ultimately release it, set it free on its way, like a cloud moving through the wide sky, so that a nourishing sun returns to a fuller view. This person finishes by saying, I imagine that there is nothing that could have taught me that other than fear itself and grace for the courage. I love this tidbit. This person said, I don't have a story for you that I can think of, but what this reminded me of was a bit of wisdom received in meditation many years ago, which I have kept close to my heart in difficult times. Fear is how we measure ourselves. Who is larger, me or the fear? Who is stronger? I keep sitting on the brink of something and contemplating this because I would like to be larger than this fear, and I am not sure I am. Like a cat doing that butt wiggle thing to try to judge if it can make that leap. I love that. It's a great image. And I told you I would share the shortest story of them all. And it made me know that there was so much more to know and to feel about this story. Love and pain woven so fine. The words said, I had the courage to say goodbye to my son when I could no longer help him. Anonymous or not, we are your witness, and we honor your story. Can you be present to all of the sadness and grief and uncertainty of this liminal time we are living in, so you can also be present to joy and to hope and to unexpected goodness? Can you remember the stories and poems and songs which remind you that you are strong and that people can overcome terribly hard things? The instruction book is already right here in our own lives and in our beautiful, tragic, very real life stories. Take courage, dear friends, when the fog surrounds us all. Open your eyes wide, peer over the mask, walk slowly, pay attention, reach out for a hand. May it be so. Amen.
Let's look to the light, let's look to love. Page 131, Love Will Guide Us. Please stand in either body or spirit.
Because the world is poor and starving, go with bread. Because the world is filled with fear, go with courage. Because the world is in despair, go with hope. Because the world is living lies, go with truth. Because the world is sick with sorrow, go with joy. Because the world is weary of war, go with peace. Because the world is seldom fair, go with justice. Because the world is under judgment, go with mercy. Because the world will die without it, go with love.